What is going on, everybody? Today we have two of my Magnum Tantos. This is the big boy, the 12-inch, and then this is the 7.5, 7-inch, whatever you want to call it, that I've reviewed once before. I figured I'd bring them both out and do a side-by-side comparison of the two. So let's start off with getting some actual hardcore measurements. The big boy is a little hard to fit on camera. So right from tip, it's actually not 12 inches. It's actually about 11.25 inches of blade of actual edge and about 11.5 of blade. See where the actual 7-inch lies. Yes, the 7-inch is actually a little less than 7.25 on the actual edge. It's 7.5 on your actual blade, but only a little under 7.25 on your actual edge. So let's get a little thickness here. Let's not zeroed out. Let's get inches. So let's see where we stand for thickness. So about 188 thousandths. Let's move on down. Yep, it continues. Almost coming up thicker as you get closer to the tip. You know, that's kind of interesting that it actually gets a little thicker. Now this thing is not this measurement device is not probably the most accurate. This is just really to give me really a rough estimate of what we're looking at for thicknesses. So, you know, you're almost looking at 200 thousandths. Let's try not to knock the camera with that big boy. I'm sure this is probably, 186 thousandths. This one seems to hold its thickness a little bit more. Both of these knives are San Mai with a VG-10 core. So that means, that one's kind of dirty. Let's grab this one. You can see the line right here. And that is your VG-10 that continues all the way down. It's right in the center core of the blade. You can see a little bit of that shadowing in the middle there, that little bit of color, and that is your VG-10. So you have your VG-10 running throughout the whole knife through the center, and then you have two layers, which we don't know what the steel is, they don't tell us, of softer steel on the outside. So basically it gives you flexibility. VG-10 is very a hard steel. Sometimes it can be pretty chippy too. So you do have to use some caution if you're really going to be hard on the steel, because it will chip. Typically, VG-10's used in a lot of chef knives, a lot of higher quality kitchen knives. So let's get a weight on these. See if we can actually pull this off, because this is a big boy. So just under 13 ounces. It doesn't look like she's, let me make sure she's not actually, no, she's not touching the table. Just want to make sure it wasn't touching the table. So yeah, yep, so just a little under 13 ounces. And just right around 10.5 ounces. So yeah, these have some weight to them. This is a very cool knife. I've actually used it in the kitchen to slice turkey and other larger roast and stuff like that. Pretty cool. It works really good for that. I would be a little concerned if you were to take this to the campsite and really start whacking on too many things. Again, just because the VG-10 can tend to chip on you, and there's, you know, and I've heard from some people that have said that they have broken their tips off, which is pretty surprising because these tips are pretty thick. I mean, they hold their, like a, you know, you just saw, I mean, they hold their thickness all the way down. So if we could actually get right into that tip right there, you're talking about 77 thousandths, and you can see kind of how it's lined up on that tip. So it holds a lot of thickness, and guys have said that they have broken their tips off. Now, you know, no steel is without its issues. You know, even your best steels, if they're not heat treated right, or there is a bad batch, I mean, any knife can be subjected to splitting and cracking. You used to be able to, you know, if you broke your blade, you know, you could send it back and have them look at it, and if they thought that was because of defects in the steel, that they would, you know, typically trade out your knife for you. But because guys on YouTube have taken a lot of knives like this and go out and they smash and beat on it, and to the point to break it, and then turn around and send it into, you know, Cold Steel or whoever, you know, Chris Reeve or whatever, and say, you know, my blade's broken, I want a replacement, you know. And it became such a problem with some of these guys out there abusing these knives and then blaming it on a heat treat or a blade, you know, steel, when it was just really just them out there totally abusing their knives. And so now a lot of these companies, there's a lot of fine print in their warranties and everything else. So, you know, it's hard to get, you know, a company to stand by something that might actually be a defect. You'd really have to prove that basically that the steel itself was faulty, and that the blade and everything basically didn't do anything but cut paper, you know, and that's just not going to happen. You know, it's just, you're going to be, you know, putting some of these things through some kind of roughness at least to break it, because the steel is not going to break with just a piece of paper. You know, it's just not going to happen. You know, especially these things, they both have the rubbery grip, so they both fit in really good in your hand, and they're not going to slide out of your hand. Like I said, I've used this to cut turkey. I get turkey grease all over it, and you never worry about, you know, it slipping out of my hands. I just sit there and just keep cutting the turkey, setting it down, whatever, come back, cut some more turkey. This thing will just butcher right through it. It's got a nice, you know, they all have nice hollow grinds to them, so they're thin behind the edge for how thick these boys are. I mean, these things are thick. They're made in Taiwan now. They're from what I understand, all the San Mai knives are all made in the same place, and nothing else is made in the same OEM factory that these come from. Lynn Thompson actually had a hard time finding a company to do the steel the way that his company in Japan was doing it, because San Mai is you know, with the right tempering of the steel, can be tricky, you know, and getting it to come out consistently at the right price too. I mean, Lynn Thompson was trying to make these affordable. I mean, this knife here is, give or take, right around $300, and it's worth every penny. Even if you just have it as a display knife, this thing is just an absolute beauty. It really is, you know. And it's, you know, if you want to use it for home defense, it would certainly be good for that. You know, I wouldn't, like I said, I wouldn't use it as a necessarily, you know, a bushwhacker in the bush, you know, really sitting there abusing and trying to cut trees down with it. But for a lot of other simple tasks, yeah, definitely. Neither one of them are really super easy to carry. You can see, here's your holster. A lot of people like or don't like these holsters for their knives, but they do work. The retention, even without the clip, holds it very good. Even as heavy as this sucker is, it does hold very good in there. A lot of people are concerned about the way that basically the blade goes in. The best way to do it is to put your blade in this way, pushing downward, so that the edge is not riding on that, because that's what a lot of people will complain about, is how it will dull your edge going in and out of the holster. And it is an issue, but if you hold it and move it in, it stays off the edge for the most part. But yeah, I mean, they're pretty good. These are, you know, they are adjustable. You know, you can move them around. You also can use it, you know, the MOLLE attachments if you're using anything with MOLLE. But, you know, like I said, there's a lot of length here, especially to carry. So your overall length with the holster is 18 inches long. So there's a lot there to carry, that's for sure. But, you know, they are pretty cool, you know, with what you're getting. You know, this one here I think is right around $200, and this one here is right around $300. Whether or not the new GSM continues making these is debatable, so we shall see. They've already eliminated a lot of stuff off their website, so I don't hold out a whole lot of faith in what GSM is ultimately going to do with cold steel, but once again, we shall see. That's it for today, guys. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next one.